Welcome back to Fame Ready, the personal branding and public relations podcast to show you that anything is possible. I'm your host, Katrina Owens, top personal branding and public relations expert. And today we got to talk about an epidemic. It is an epidemic that I am seeing entrepreneurs suffering from every single day. And that is, shall we give it a name? The anti-launch syndrome. Just came up with that. That's pretty good. Anti-launch syndrome means that you do this thing where you have something big coming up. So maybe you are launching your own podcast, writing a book. It could even just be like a YouTube channel or a new brand or a new offer. And you do this thing where you're like, I'm going to put out one post, okay? Or maybe it's two, one or two that says, coming soon, or something exciting is coming soon. And that's it. And then you launch the thing. That is not a proper launch, you guys. A post on social media is not a proper launch. And I know that we think that it is. We think that we, as service providers, as I'm assuming most of this audience is, I'm assuming that we think that because our business lives almost exclusively online, in theory at least, that's not what I practice. But because of this, we think that all we need to do is a little bit of hype on social media, and there we have it. We'll have the most successful launch ever. But this is simply just not true. Okay. When you are launching anything as a personal brand, I need you to build some proper hype. And that's what I want to talk to you all about today. How to actually do this for your personal brand. And I'm going to give you some real tangible examples from building my personal brand that's going to show you what this looks like in practice. Because building up a proper hype around every single launch that I have done has honestly been one of the key reasons why everything I do is so successful. Oh my gosh, it's crazy to say that out loud. I just claimed that. But it's true, you guys. Anytime I've ever had an event, launched a podcast, um, you know, announced something, I've always built it up to make sure that there is a proper audience engaged, that enough storytelling and nurturing was done before the thing, so that when that really special thing drops, the reception hits. Because if it doesn't, well, I guess that's when we call the launch a flop. And I hate to see a flop. And if you're building a fame ready or famous personal brand, we can't just go around flopping everywhere. I mean, sometimes, unfortunately, we are going to have launches or offers or events, things that don't perform as well as we thought that they would. That's normal. I've had that. But it's really important that we learn from those experiences. And when clients come to me talking about this like launch or something exciting that they had announced and they just felt like it felt flat, well, typically it's because you did not build up the proper hype leading to that particular thing. So let's dive into what this actually looks like in practice, because it's really easy to talk about why um, a hype or building hype is so important. But what does it actually look like in practice for you? Because obviously we don't have multi-million-dollar budgets. We can simply work with what's available to us right now, while obviously still making some investments into our personal brand. And that's the thing that I really want to make clear in this new era of Fame Ready. I'm not here to tell you that everything is going to be cheap and cheerful, because honestly, it's not. Running a business, growing a profitable personal brand is not going to be a cheap and cheerful endeavor. Even though you think it should be because it's just you, no overhead, you are entirely wrong. I need you to fully commit to growing your personal brand. So let's dive into a couple like really great case studies about what this looks like. So let's talk about the most recent one, because if you're listening to this, it is early October 2025 and Fame Ready has just relaunched, but so has a lot of other exciting things around what I am doing in my business right now. If you're listening to this episode, you probably have seen on social media that I'm working with some really exciting sponsors, that I was on a billboard in Times Square, that I am signing on to bigger and bigger speaking engagements and stages. And I'm hosting the biggest entrepreneur event I've ever hosted mid-October. None of this is a coincidence, you guys. When I planned out this final quarter of my business, I knew that October was going to be a lot. Okay. At the time of this recording, there are 8 flights that I will take during the month of October. So if you're someone sitting there saying, Katrina, I'd love to go to your event, but I don't know, I just have a lot going on. I promise you, you probably don't have as much going on as I do, and I'm planning the thing. So I would love to see you there as a side note, because this is how we grow profitable personal brands and build incredible momentum. So let's unpack all of the things I've been doing in the last couple weeks to build up this really exciting hype. And what I want to be super clear about is, while I'm recording this, obviously I don't have the results of this particular strategy or campaign yet, but you know what would be cool? I'm going to tell you what I'm projecting, because then after my event series is over at the end of October, we can do a recap episode and see where I matched up, because y'all know I am here to dish all of the secrets, all of the strategies that you need to be able to do this stuff yourself. So why not manifest some of this? It's kind of a vulnerable thing for me to do, but I think it's probably really interesting for all of you. So let's work backwards. So on October 22nd, I am hosting a very exciting entrepreneur event for over 60 entrepreneurs in Abbotsford, British Columbia. So let's talk about the first thing, the guest count. 60 entrepreneurs. That is my minimum, but I'm planning to sell as many tickets as I possibly can. So the venue is adjustable. It's like there is space and availability for me to get as many bums and seats as I really want to. Obviously, there's a limit eventually. That limit's probably around 100, but if I get 60, I'm thrilled. Anything over that is like gravy. So that's the first metric. We're going for a sold out 60 attendees. And what I'm doing at this event is obviously carefully crafting it so at the very end, much like the last event that I hosted, I will make an offer to the audience. So that offer to the audience will be an opportunity to join the Fame Ready Entrepreneur Program at an exclusive price point. Maybe there are some extra things thrown in there as well. But my goal, I haven't even thought about this, you guys. Okay, let's come up with it together. So my last event in March was 30 people. I converted 50% of that audience into my new offer. That was around 15 people. Okay. That netted me a $20,000 sales a month in March. So let's go big, shall we? Whew, gives me chills to say it out loud. So in October 2025, with this event and the post-event offer, my target is to convert 50% of the audience again. Okay, so that's 30 people. And I'm going to leave it a little bit open. So that could be group coaching clients, but it could also be one-on-one clients. So let's talk about my target revenue. So I want to convert 50% of the audience. My target revenue, $30,000. Freaking obviously. You guys, I'm still trying to reach this goal. Still, I know we've rebranded under Fame Ready, and here I am still trying to reach this monthly revenue goal, but there it is. Okay. the event's got to be the month that I hit it, right? So there it is. I am planning to convert 30%, or no, let's not put that out into the audience, 50% of the audience to have a $30,000 revenue month. And oh my God, that's going to feel so good. So there it is. Okay. So those are my target metrics. So let's talk about absolutely freaking everything I am doing to get there right now. So that event is in late October. So October 22nd, 2025. What I am doing before that is strategically placing a VIP event 1 week, 7 days before the actual main event. There are only 12 spots available at this VIP event. At the time of this recording, there's only 2 spots left, actually. So it's almost sold out. And my intention with this VIP event is that the last time I ran this event, or not this event, but an entrepreneur event, I sold the majority of the tickets in the last 2 weeks leading up to the event. And the day of the actual event, there was so much amazing content that was shared. People were celebrating the event, having an amazing time, celebrating me and my podcast, that I gained like over 100 followers that day. I had people joining my email list, commenting, asking when the next one was going to be. So I strategically placed this VIP event 1 week before the main event so that when all of this happens again, yes, it's a smaller group, but it's going to be very aesthetic and very impactful. So the goal is that everyone will share all of their content during the VIP event. And in that last 7 days, when all of those people are like, oh my gosh, that event looks so amazing. When's the next one? It's like, here it is. It's next week. Buy your ticket. So that's like a major component of the launch strategy. There are some other pieces that I'm going to share that I've incorporated into that are still in the works right now. So I have to be a little bit secretive about the details. Obviously, we can talk about more of it once it's all out in the open. But there are 2 major sponsors that are coming on board for this event, and I'm working with them in different ways. So, yes, they're sponsors of the event, but they're also brand sponsors for me. So, I'm integrating them into my content, the way that I announce different things and launch different things. So, those sponsors are going to blow people's minds, honestly, once I share who they are. So that's part of the strategy as well. And I did not come out of the gate with having announced my sponsors or all of my speakers, because I knew that if I went live with all of that back in August, or yeah, early August was when I launched this event to the public, it's hard to sell a local event months in advance. What I have learned, if it's local, people are going to be last minute with their tickets. So I knew that creating more hype around like sharing speakers and sharing sponsors when people were actually ready to buy their tickets was going to be the right move, because now, like, I think the event has great brand awareness. It's a matter of really telling people, you got to come, buy your ticket, don't forget, put it in the calendar. So that's the phase that I'm in right now. What is really important to remember is a week ago, 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was only last week. I guess it was just a week ago. I was on a billboard in Times Square after having spoke at a major event in New York City, and I received an award. I was featured in a magazine campaign. So all of these really amazing things happened a week ago. That was the most engagement and excitement, I swear, has been on my social media account ever. Okay? And that's why I knew that having this event in October was the right move, because, you know, all of this stuff happened at the end of August, and I could just go straight into continuing to sell. And so, one of the things that I think people like lose the plot on is thinking that, okay, if I spend like 4 months speaking at events, creating social media content, getting some media features, that's actually a very, very broad timeline. The more that you can stack things close together, like when I was in New York, I basically spoke at that event, and then a couple days later was announced that I was in this magazine, and then the next day I was on a billboard in Times Square. There were 3 social media posts that went out within days of each other that continued to remind my audience why I'm the authority, why I'm credible, why I'm the expert they should work with, and the results were significant, okay? Um, I signed, um 2 people into my group coaching program. I re-signed 3 existing clients. I sold like 5 event tickets in a day. And those are just like the most recent wins. And, if you know me and how I talk about ROI, we really got to wait until like a couple months have gone by to really reap the rewards of all of that stuff because our PR efforts compound on each other. But that really is um, the biggest opportunity that I think people have. Like, whenever you are doing anything, couple it with public relations efforts to blow your success out of the water. So let's talk about like digital launches overall. Like, I'm talking like podcasts, YouTube channels, things that are super digital, because this is when I feel personally people aren't taking these assets as seriously as they should. So I talked a little bit about the event that I hosted back in March, but let's talk a little bit more about that one, because that event, whether you're a longtime listener or you're new around here, that event was actually to celebrate the launch of my podcast. Okay. So I knew that if I was going to launch a podcast, I was going to do it properly. And by properly, I mean, I'm going to treat myself like all of the celebrities out here who have their own podcasts that do like launch parties, podcast tours, all those things. I was like, that's the type of energy that I want to channel. And I don't say that because I think I'm special. I say that because I think that that's the right strategy. A podcast is a lot of work. You got to make sure you're having a significant amount of weekly listeners to make sure that it's worth your while, right? So I was like, we need to show the audience why this is such a big deal. And that podcast launch really did that. So I know I alluded to some of the results earlier on, but let me take you through what that kind of campaign period looked like leading up to them. So what I had done initially was I did a save the date post probably like 6 weeks before actually like the event date itself. And in that same time frame, I launched the trailer to the podcast. So do you see how there were 2 things happening at once? I didn't just release the podcast trailer, but within the same 7-day period, I also released a save the date because I got a ton of visibility and excitement in announcing that the podcast was coming. But now I had something tangible, something physical that people could actually hold on to as well. And I had never run an in person entrepreneur event before. So it really was the first of its kind for me. So I did that. And then I think there was I can't remember how many weeks there was in between that save the date to the actual event launch, but I did what I had done previously, which was launch the tickets to my VIP list first. So VIPs got an early bird discount. I think in the first 48 hours of ticket sales, I didn't leave that open for very long to create a sense of urgency. Let's address the elephant in the room. Urgency can be really hard to create because when I launched the VIP ticket sales, only one person bought their ticket in like the first 48 hours of that launch, which was a tough pill to swallow. I ended up selling way more than that, thankfully, but people are last minute. So most of those like early bird tickets were sold like in the final hours of that promotional period. Okay, something important to keep in mind. And then, like I alluded to before, tickets were like pretty steady, like sales throughout the month. I mean, it's funny to look back now. It was only 30 tickets, but it felt like trying to sell so many. Oh God, and I'm trying to do minimum 60, but I have some pretty cool partners on board that I know are going to help me sell this thing out and then some. So interestingly enough, 60 feels like 30 now, I guess. It's pretty cool. That is pretty cool growth, if I do say so myself. Okay. So that was like the event promotional period. And then I know I've chatted about this before, but obviously there's quite a few new listeners around these days. So let me tell you what that offer launch actually looked like. So my event was called a launch and learn, and that was very, very strategic because I knew that I couldn't just sell tickets to celebrate me launching something. I mean, if you want to have a true launch party where you're not necessarily educating, that's totally fine. You could probably charge like a $40 ticket just to like cover food and drinks. But I knew if I wanted to charge a higher ticket price, so for that event, it was $130 a ticket, I believe. I think maybe that was early bird. I think it went all the way up to 150. I knew that I had to be providing the guests with something. And to me, that was education. So there had to be something in it for them that wasn't just like celebrating my achievement, right? So I basically crafted this whole event along the lines of like, okay, KO Your Brand, which was the original name of this podcast. It is all about personal branding and public relations education. So that is what you are going to learn at this event. And it really is about celebrating the launch of this podcast that's on the same topic. So you see how those all connect together? So good, right? So then at that event, I launched a very special offer to the audience. Like I said, 50% of the audience converted. I actually had a couple people at the event tell me that they came to the event hoping that I was going to share an offer because there are some people that were really eager to learn from me consistently after that. So that was pretty cool. So I didn't just like launch the offer at the event and then never like talk about any of that ever again, right? So after the event was over, I actually had an email sequence go out to all attendees, and it started 1 hour after that event ended. And I think this time I'm going to be even more urgent about it. Make sure that email gets sent out like literally at the event end time. And there was like a 48-hour email sequence reminding people of this offer, why it was so special, why it was so high value for a 48-hour period. So it's not like people signed up for the offer like on the spot in the room. I think maybe one or two people did from my memory, but it really was over that weekend, consistently reminding people that the deadline's approaching that got all of those like sales locked in. So that's really important to remember because I see people like launch offers at events all the time, but there's no email follow up. I'm not someone who wants to have their phone out putting in their credit card information like at an event. So if you're not sending me the link after the fact, like you're giving me too much time to like think about it, forget, move on. So you've got to be on it. Okay. So that's what I did. And then I continued to celebrate the success of that event through, that post-event recap reel, which is really, really important. I think I posted it like that night. Okay. It was fast. And then I got my event photos a little bit later than I would have liked. I think it was about 2 weeks, but that was a great way to like post and kind of relive that moment. This time for my October events, I have asked the photographer to give me 24-hour turnaround, especially for that VIP brunch, because we need that content to continue to push people to buy tickets for the main event. So that was that strategy. So you can see how I really coupled podcast launch with an event. Those two things standing alone doesn't really mean much, right? But when we put them together, that really is when true magic happens because now you're building hype and excitement and you're showing up in a bigger way. Every time I see someone launch a podcast and it's just all digital, no like experiential touch points, I'm just like, I wish you would have taken a little bit of extra effort to like add some of that fun stuff in. It's not hard. And honestly, I think it gives people a deeper connection. Like when I launched KO Your Brand, a lot of those like original listeners came from that really early stage launch. And then, podcast listeners kind of drop off. Maybe people decided they didn't really enjoy this type of content. Who knows? But there was a dip in my analytics. I know that with this rebrand, I'm expecting things to be like popping off again. I think I needed a little bit of a refresh and a reset. Um, so I also think just with the way that my brand is changing and the way some of these sponsors are coming on board, like the vibe around here is going to change, you guys. Oh my God. I cannot wait to just like have all of it out in the open so it doesn't feel like this big secret anymore. But I digress. Okay. So those are two very tangible examples that obviously surround an event that I did. I don't necessarily want you to feel like you have to host an event every time you want to launch something. So I'm going to give you one more example, which was actually like the very first time I consciously ran a PR strategy in my business that resulted in sales. So this actually goes back to um, like spring, summer 2024, the very first time I launched 5 Weeks Till Famous, which is my introductory PR program. Obviously, that's now amalgamated into the Fame Ready Entrepreneur program. But back then, I was launching my very first cohort ever. So I actually built that program because I could see how many PR opportunities I had in a very short period of time. And I mean, I've been doing this long enough to know, like, my brain was like, oh, we're about to pop off in a big way. So, how can I make sure I'm capitalizing on the back end of this with all of the things that I have planned? So, what were some of the things that were in the calendar? I had um, this like virtual workshop that I was running with a couple other women from kind of across the US. So that was something that attracted like over 100 participants. That really was like the first big virtual thing I had ever done. And I think it was really interesting to my local audience because I could tell they were like, oh, who are these like, bigger entrepreneurs that aren't from our local community? Like how are we getting connected to these types of people? I also had a couple podcast episodes come out. I also had a couple media features come out, including one that named me a top brand expert to follow of 2024. And lo and behold, that article came out when I was in New York City to celebrate the launch of an online publication called Intentional Living Magazine. And I remember like literally being in an Uber on my way to an event and posting that Instagram post, just knowing like I'm sharing this and now everyone is going to see me at this incredible party being featured in this print publication and being at this fabulous party at the Four Seasons celebrating that. That was something that I had never done before. So my audience had never seen me do something like that before. But when I think about my community, no one else in my community had ever done that before either. So it's a pretty big deal. So during that time, I pulled all the pieces, all the promotional materials together for 5 Weeks Till Famous. And that first launch, I got 12 people into my group program, which had never been done before. I was barely like doing PR coaching. So I was just like really using it as a testing ground to make sure people could achieve the results that I felt like they could. And they did. I mean, I have had clients from that original cohort continue to re-sign with me, which is always the biggest compliment ever. But that was such a successful launch. That was the first time I ever made $20,000 revenue in my business. So you can just see how PR really does link to sales. So that wasn't necessarily me hosting an event, but it was still me doing in-person activation, my audience physically seeing me, even if physically meant like they're watching me online, but seeing me still physically be somewhere different that was communicated digitally, but also working hand in hand with a bunch of digital PR. And I think there's a common denominator there, you guys. Like with our digital launches, how can we bring stuff back into like our IRL world, right? Like we live in a time of AI and digital media. Like it's so easy to just do things online. But where is the biggest trust and credibility built? It's always in person. And even if that means you're just renting out a room at a local co-working spot to like, have a little in-person co-working day, like that's totally viable too. I don't want it to make it seem like you need to spend thousands of dollars hosting an event, although I do think if you want to raise the bar on your personal brand, yeah, that's an investment that's worth it. but I don't recommend doing that right away. Like for me, I started with my small event. Honestly, the cost I kept really, really low. Obviously, with this new event that I'm running, the expenses are higher, and that's been my own emotional journey to navigate. But I just know that this is a new level for me. Like the event that I hosted back then, it would not be reflective of my brand and where it is now. So we do have to invest more with confidence, knowing that it will pay off. And I'm just so grateful to have had sponsors come on board to actually help alleviate some of the financial constraints that come along with planning and running events. So that's another example of what it looks like to really run a proper public relations campaign for your next big launch. So let me just break this down into a quick little formula for you. So, as you're planning your next big thing, you can start to visualize what this looks like for you. So, I recommend doing your launches in a 60-day window. 30 days is awesome. When you guys see just how much I managed to do in the month of October 2025, you're going to wish that you also could do as much in 30 days, I promise. But 60 days is a nice little window too. But the question is always, how many opportunities can you bookend together in that 60-day window to really ramp up as much awareness and authority as possible? And so when you have that kind of 60-day window established, what I want you to do first is you have to do your pre-launch teasers. So it's okay to say something is coming or that you're working on something with someone. But the problem is most people stop there. Most people like drop a couple teasers and then never talk about the thing again until it launches. I'm a big fan of building in public. You guys are going to watch me do this on a couple things. You guys, if you've been following me for a while, you did watch me do this when it came to everything that happened in New York. I very strategically did storytelling posts like in the weeks leading up on my Instagram stories talking about why this trip was going to be so meaningful. I didn't tell anyone. Like, I don't even think Heather knew that I was going to be on that billboard, by the way. I told very, very few people, but I like really pulled all of that together because I was like, okay, it's time to show up like a new version, the new identity that I am. But with that, we have to acknowledge that something big is about to happen. So a lot of the storytelling I was doing was talking about this old identity, this person who didn't believe that things were possible for her. Like I really, really like touched on that over and over again day or two before I left for New York. I even did like a kind of emotional, like, you know, never gonna cry on camera, but like I did a more like emotionally charged, like this trip is gonna mean so much to me. Obviously, people knew that I was speaking in New York, so people kind of thought that that's what I was alluding to. Most people obviously didn't know that it was also gonna involve me on a billboard, but that was really like when I was storytelling and what I was setting people up for was that entire journey. Okay. I was doing the Taylor Swift with the Easter eggs. Just nobody had really known what that was going to look like until I posted it, which is why it received such great reception. So during the launch, so once you're like in it, now you need to amplify it. And so this is the part that people forget. You did one post about the thing that you launched, not good enough. You need to be celebrating that. I would say give yourself 7 to 14 days to continuously to remind people why that was such an impactful experience for you. You're going to see me do this time and time again. Um, during the month or not even during the month, during the week after, it's not like I just posted one thing of the billboard. I have like different clips of me in front of this billboard. I did you know, things that made me feel famous type post or the summer I felt famous post that really was well received too. It really just is bringing all of that content together in as many ways as you possibly can to really show your audience why it is a big deal. Your audience is never going to think anything you do is a big deal unless you tell them that it is. Okay. Let me say that one more time. Your audience is never going to think that anything you do is a big deal unless you tell them that it is. People don't give a shit about other people's success, about what other people are doing until it affects them. And by affects them, I mean emotionally, because they can relate to it, because they want it, they desire what you have. So if you're not making whatever you've just done desirable, holy shit, this is the meatiest point of this episode, okay? You have got to show people and make them feel something, and you've got to remind them over and over again why what you're doing is important, impactful, why it's a big deal. That's how you get the engagement that you're looking for. If you're not doing that, that's the problem right there. Okay? Are we clear? Okay, good. Okay, so then let me take you on to step 3, which is post-launch. Post-launch, like I said, we must continue to remind this is what's happened. Like, you think I'm just like never going to share billboard content again, or content of me speaking on stage in New York, or you think I'm not going to reference those things again? Wrong. Obviously, it's not going to be my everyday content. Now I'm in kind of a breathing period where I am starting to um just put in some other things again, like just like, experiment with different content types. But for me, I will be certainly coming back to this time and time again. Okay. Um, Really important to always celebrate your journey. I'm always reflecting, I'm always pulling results, I'm always going back. Like with the promotion for this event right now that I'm running, I'm talking a lot about the previous event that I did and why it was so impactful there. So let's just kind of sum up this formula that I've just chatted with you all about. It really can be summed up: tease, drop, confirm. So like that tease is like building up the hype. What is it? It's not one post, it's several. And not all of this content has to like just be like something is coming. We don't actually have to tell our audience that, but we need to signal to them that there's an identity shift coming. So they start to see you differently. And that's why like PR is so important, because PR is what can amplify an identity shift. Someone seeing you appearing on podcasts or speaking at different events, that starts to signal to your audience that like something is changing about you. And it makes them even more intrigued. And obviously, like they want to learn even more about that. Drop is obviously when you drop the opportunity, celebrating it, making it feel like the big freaking deal that it is, and then confirm. Continue to reinforce why that moment was life changing, why it was so significant for you. Don't be scared to bring it back up 7 days later, 14 days later, 30 days later. This is your life. This is your business. You've got to keep talking about these things and know that your audience's mind is so busy, they're not even going to notice. They're never going to be like, "Oh, Katrina's talking about this shit again." You want to know the reason why my audience can so easily say "you're famous" back to me? Like on any given day, I have Instagram messages, comments, all of the things people telling me that I'm famous because this is a word I started to use. That's because I've spent so much time crafting my content to tell people this is what it looks like to feel famous. And I made that a word that we all use collectively, which is really cool. Okay. So at the end of the day, um, every piece of your personal brand is part of the story. This is what makes frickin' Taylor Swift's whole formula, her whole like archive of music and marketing so effective. It's because there's always a touch point. She connects back to previous work. She celebrates all of it and doesn't let any of it get forgotten. And I think that is what makes the growth of a personal brand so impactful. So just make sure you keep in mind whatever you are launching next, whether it's a podcast, a book. I know a lot of y'all in my audience are starting to write books. It's super cool. So that book, even if it's an offer, a rebrand, whatever it is, please make public relations a part of that strategy. We are no longer just like shyly announcing things. No, we are treating everything that we do like it is a big freaking deal, because it is. And if you want help doing this, well, the Fame Ready Entrepreneur Program is the perfect place to start. find the link in the show notes to join. If you join during the month of October, you will also receive a 60-minute strategy session with me. Yes, I said 60, 60. I'm only going to give away 5 of these, by the way. So when this episode comes out, hit the link in the show notes to register for the Fame Ready Entrepreneur Program. When you register, if you are one of the 5, you will also receive a super special Calendly link to book your strategy session with me. Yeah, I think that's such like a great value add because strategy sessions with me are like money. Okay. They are worth $500 in value for 60 minutes of my time. And I know that with the information that I'll give you, you are going to see an exponential ROI. So hey guys, that's the end of this episode. The first official like content episode of Fame Ready. It felt really good. I feel like we're on like we're definitely on a new chapter of what this podcast looks like for me and all of you. So please leave me a review and rate this show on Spotify, on Apple. Follow this podcast on Instagram at Get Fame Ready. Follow me on Instagram at Katrina Owens PR. And I'll see y'all next week. Okay. Goodbye, my famous friends.